As a medical student and as a doctor, you don't get a chance a lot of times to understand what the patient's going through. And now I definitely understand things from both sides.
We traditionally decorate the tree, Christmas tree, the weekend after Thanksgiving. Emily had to leave that afternoon, and I think the last thing I said was, "Oh, please be careful in all this weather."
I was going to go to Dallas that night because I was supposed to fly out to California the next morning to go interview at Stanford. So I got on the road and I was just going along, and there was a lot of water collected on the road. And before I went over the last little bridge, I remember losing control of my car. And that's the last thing I remember.
911, do you have an emergency?
Yes, ma'am, there's a wreck. Somebody flipped over on their side on Linton Road.
Where on Linton Road?
The first bridge you come to, coming off of Airline, it just happened like 2 seconds ago. There's a black car that's completely flattened, or it looks like it's completely flattened, and the truck flipped over.
We heard, the dispatch go out, and you could hear in the voice of the 911 dispatcher, you could tell that it was a serious call.
A two-car MVA on the bridge on Linton Road. First thing that went through my mind was replaying the accident that happened a few months earlier where there were numerous fatalities.
You hear people talking like the medic crews and this and that on the radio, and you pretty much understand that it's going to be a pretty serious wreck.
On stuff like that, when you know it's going to be bad, we're generally just going through our minds together of, what's going to be the game plan, what do we need to get off the truck. When we pulled up, I can just remember seeing Emily's car in the middle of the roadway and then the other vehicle on its side on the bridge railing.
Jumped out and went straight to Emily's car because some of the other guys had already gone to the other vehicle. And we started assessing the situation, trying to decide what we needed to get rolling as far as how we were going to get her out of that car.
She was in a bad impact, so there's no way of knowing what kind of internal injuries are there. But I knew she had some serious injuries to her lower extremities.
Get up there and you can see that the dash and everything is pushed way down on top of her legs, and she's pinned in the vehicle, and we knew that we were going to have a pretty serious extrication on our hands after we saw that.
I just, introduced myself to Emily and said, "Hey, I'm Amanda with Bossier Parish EMS Medic 3. I'm going to be helping you out. Just hang in there. They're going to be cutting you out of the car as soon as they can."
Hadn't been a few minutes till the home phone rang. Normally I don't answer the house phone.
He answered it. And that's when I knew immediately something was wrong.
He was just like, "Oh no, oh no. How bad is it? Is it Emily? What's wrong?"
That is the phone call you never want to get. And he said, "Well, we're going to have to cut her out of the car." And immediately the day just stopped.
When you're using these tools, they're strong, they're powerful. And you have to actually be looking at the patient and as to where you place the tool, because you can really hurt the patient.
You know somebody's in that vehicle hurt, and they're depending on you to get them out and to help save them. So there's definitely pressure.
Started at the hinges on the door in the front, popped both of those, get it open, get the door off, and then eventually we made some cuts on the roof and rolled the roof back.
The last thing that we did was take the dash off of her legs. I was kind of afraid that when we got the dash off her legs that she would go into shock due to blood loss.
We came up to the car, and the car was of course turned opposite direction from which it should have been going.
The first thing I saw was the SUV over on its side, and then her car just basically cut in half.
We had our stretcher ready to go. We had the backboard right there. We were able to move her to the backboard and keep C-spine precautions. It was at that time that we moved her out. We were able to tell the extent of her lower extremity injuries.
She had broken fingers, and we could see her fingers. There was a lot of blood.
Both kneecaps were split open down the middle, pretty much split down the legs. I mean, you couldn't really tell what was what. Deformities of both legs, ankle, foot, you could tell she had a femur fracture when we got her out. I honestly didn't know if she was going to make it.
My first thought was, is she alive? If she is alive, is she going to survive?
I was kind of a little bit leery to just immediately start giving her narcotics and pain medicine because I didn't want it to drop her respiratory rate and then us have to deal with another type of problem. So I just encourage her to keep breathing normally, just to try to stay calm, just to stay awake.
To not be sure if someone that you love and that you care about so much is going to be there in a few hours or in a few minutes.
To have LSU as a level 1 trauma center means that there are folks there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year that are dedicated to those patients.
What happens is they call, so we're already on alert that a trauma is about to come up. So we know if it's a head, if it's an abdomen, if it's an arm, we kind of know.
They're ready and waiting on us when we get there, and they take over, and it's up to them from then on.
They'll be wheeled into a room where there's about 15 people standing around waiting for them to arrive. So there's a very straightforward approach to this, where we look at the airway first, breathing second to make sure the lungs are functioning. We then look to make sure they're not in shock, look at their level of consciousness, and then we move on and examine them from head to toe. And it looks very chaotic if you're there, but actually everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and that oftentimes amounts to 7 or 8 things being done at once.
You know that they're doing what they have to do to care for Emily and stabilize Emily, but you don't know really how she's doing. You want to be there, you want to comfort her, hold her hand, things like that.
Her vital signs weren't doing so well when she arrived. She was tachycardic, she was hypotensive, and she's in pretty bad shape.
She was just all broken up. Some of these were open fractures, meaning the bone is exposed, which is a big problem in putting it back together, preventing infection.
The face was intact, but everything else from the left foot up to the shoulder, she had it.
I remember my parents coming in and my little sister was just crying and crying and crying, and she came up and kind of hugged me, and I was covered to my chin, you know, the sheet up to my chin, and I had all kinds of IVs coming out of my neck and everything. First time I saw her, I just cried. Like I couldn't even have a conversation with her or tell her anything. I just stood by her and sobbed. That's all I knew what to do.
She knew we were there. We touched her and you know, talked to her, and then we left so they could do their job.
After a brief neurovascular exam, seeing that she could move her toes and fingers, that she could feel things and had a pulse, we ended up taking her to the OR that day.
Once we get back to the operating room, we don't have them move directly to the table. We put them to sleep where they are. You know, we try not to move them and turn them, and we know they're in a lot of pain. So comfort for her will be the #1.
Anytime you're faced with a major surgery like that, you know, there's a lot of risk.
As far as a time when I thought, well, we're out of the woods or we're not out of the woods, you don't really know.
She had to have multiple surgeries in the SICU. She stayed in there with us for about 2 weeks, I believe.
I'd wake up from heavy anesthesia, and I would have surgeries, you know, every other day. And a lot of times I wouldn't understand what was going on or what was happening to me, and that was extremely scary. But then I would get my orientation back and understand, and okay, I'm in the ICU, I was in a car wreck, okay, I just came out of surgery.
So all of those major surgeries in like 9 or 10 days, that was a little scary.
Because of my arm being broken and my hand being broken, I couldn't even feed myself. Someone else had to feed me for the first couple of days that I was in there, the first week or two even.
I remember her asking me a lot of questions about, do I think she'll be able to walk again, and things like that. And I told her, you know, that the orthopedic doctors here at LSU were saying, you know, it's going to be a long road to recovery for her.
You know, I spent 3.5 years of my life dedicated to, you know, being in medical school to be a doctor. I know that's what I want to do. That's what I've wanted to do since I was 12. So am I going to recover enough to go back to medical school to be a doctor, or am I gonna be in a state where I can't do that?
I had a conversation with her mother over whether she should continue on her 4th year or whether Emily should withdraw.
Many people came to see her, the folks in the School of Medicine.
A lot of her professors and doctors that had taught her in the medical school came and visited, and so that was really incredible to see.
Emily wouldn't be as far as she is in school, her career, or life if she wasn't a very determined little firecracker. So I kind of explained to her mom that I didn't think there was a heck of a lot that could hold that kid down.
I just have to focus on, okay, I'm alive. Okay, I have to do this and do that to get better.
They come to us, they're scared, they're nervous a lot of times, and you got to be optimistic in order to get a successful outcome.
We just felt like they were doing everything in their ability to, to keep her going, to keep her alive, to keep her headed in the right direction. And her recovery has probably progressed even faster than the doctors anticipated because of all of the good care.
It's easy to focus on getting better when you have a good support system,
Her family was great. Their interaction with her was great, and with us.
The doctors and nurses were just incredible. I couldn't think of all of the accolades to say for all of the staff, from the doctors to nurses, the physical therapists, the aides, the CNAs, everyone.
Even beyond the initial trauma care, the care she received in the 9 weeks she was there was just outstanding. Couldn't ask for better people.
They told me in the hospital it'd probably take a full year for me to get back to be, fully recovered. I'm just glad that I'll be well enough to go back to medical school and to be able to be a doctor and live a pretty normal life.
And any time that somebody has a good result, I'm just delighted. I mean, that's why I do surgery.
Emily is a very inspirational person to everybody who worked with her while she was here at LSU.
Knowing that she's going to go back to med school and pursue her dreams is a really good feeling.
When we were younger, we used to fight and argue and everything that sisters do, but now it's definitely more of a, this is the person that I want to be like, and big shoes to fill. Everyone's role in the whole process is so important, and I know for a fact that she wouldn't be here without them.
I'm afraid that many times we seriously don't think about what they do every day. You think, well, that's your job to do that, but it's more than that.
It is all of us working together as a team, coming together and using all of our skills together to be able to help people.
You just want to say thank you, thank you. I can't say even the right words to express the gratitude.
I'm just doing a job that I feel I was born to do.
It's what we do, save lives.
I'm glad to be alive, and I have to get better and have to have a good attitude about it, because so many people helped me and they were just so kind and so sweet and so attentive, and I don't know if I can say enough,
I just know that there must be something bigger and better out there for her, and it wasn't her time to go. She has more left on this earth to do than we could ever know.